Hello. So since there is a election in Germany, the federal election on Sunday, I thought I was going to do another of these tests. And the difference between the one we did before and this one is that instead of the answers of the parties to a set of questions, they're actually looking at what the parties did when they were in parliament. Or well, this is going to be a little bit difficult for some parties because they weren't in parliament, so I'm not sure how they're dealing with this. But anyway, so this is another test for the German election that people have been doing. And so this time I want to do two other things. Well, one, it's just going to be me. And two, it's going to be in German. And I'll just translate what it says. Okay, so what does it say? So instead of the Wahlomat, which means like the electomat, it is the real-o-mat. 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 That's probably how you pronounce it in German. I don't speak much German. And what it says is that all parties that in the last 4 years since the last election were in the parliament made a lot of promises, and based on this, they made this test to see what they've actually done, instead of what's being promised during the campaigns, which I think is like actually an interesting idea, because anyone can promise anything. Of course, especially in Germany, we have like coalition governments, so it's not as easy to actually make your promise as reality. But still, it's good to look at how the parties actually behaved. So let's start. Los geht's. Alright. Okay, so you basically say, yes, I agree. No, that is too far. No, that's not enough. And you can hear my Japanese bath in the background talking to me. That's pretty cool. All right, so they give an example, but I mean, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. And there's 1 out of 20, and it says Arbeit. So I'm wondering if it's going to be 20 questions or if it's 20 on work and labor. That would be interesting. Anyways, so people who receive government assistance that repeatedly deny taking work that would be sufficient for their existence should have for 2 months all of their support taken away. And I say no, that is too far, right? I'm violently opposed to this, but the only option is like, no, that is too far. Yes, I agree. No, that's not enough. So I guess I could say like, no, they should be killed. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what the right wing would say, but for me, this is too far. This is a bridge too far. On immigration, but 1 second. Okay, so they want to put hurdles in. Okay, here's the thing. There should be more hurdles for workers that want to immigrate from outside of the EU. So I don't think we need many more hurdles. I think the hurdles we have are pretty good, and if anything, we need the opposite of that. We need like people who are able to work in jobs to support our prosperity. Of course, it comes with a lot more other questions, like for example, what is the fairness to the other countries that we're taking the immigration from? So yeah, that it goes too far for me. The legal minimum wage should be at least 12 euros. I mean, now we're talking about more. I think like what they're talking about now is I think 15, because they have like an EU minimum wage it's a little bit unclear what's actually required, but either way, it's almost certain that like Germany's implementation is far below what the EU wants for a minimum wage. I would go like we probably should get like 17 or something like that. Get like some more workers empowerment going. It would perhaps help a little bit to equalize the gains that the very wealthiest have made over the last 20 years. Very good. Oh, shit. So what you then say is, I'm like, no, that's not enough for me. But you cannot take it because no party has voted for that. That is sad, right? That's just sad. But okay, so I also agree with that, even though it's not even enough for me. Pregnant people that have an abortion, I see. Okay, so pregnant women or pregnant people who are considering an abortion and want to be informed on it should be better protected from being harassed on near the clinic, which I agree. I agree with. I mean, I'm wondering now too. No, that's not enough because you can't vote for it again, as you can see. But what would that mean? Because like I think like we have this requirement that women have to have a discussion with like I think with a doctor. I'm not sure on the specifics of who you have to talk to, what counselor you have to discuss it with, but there's like the rule that you have to do it, and I think that's even a step too far. But of course, people should be protected from harassment. I mean, usually I think like at least in Germany, it's not as extreme as you hear in the US, where like there's even violence at times. But yeah, I agree. They need to be protected. Okay, so the ownership and usage of weed should be under certain should be allowed in Germany. They did that actually in the last 4 years or in the last 3 years. It was a shortened time for the government because it broke apart. They did implement that, and I know people who are taking advantage of it. I cannot. I'm a straight edge guy, but I'm all for it. I think like the way we did it is perhaps not even enough. We could go a little bit further, but I do agree with it. The one thing that I really don't like the smell of cannabis. How do you pronounce that in English? I don't even know. Marijuana. That's also not right. Weed. That's the easiest one, perhaps. But yeah, I hate the smell of it, and especially when you're in the US. God, it's brutal. It's brutal. Smell that everywhere. But I mean, I feel like my dislike of that is no reason to like criminalize people. Okay, a temporary vaccination. Oh man, what's the word that they use for it? Like a vaccination should be required for people who work in old and care homes during the corona epidemic. So this is again like this is a 4 years ago question. This is so difficult, right? Like I mean, it's not super difficult. I'm trying to think what mind space I was even in at the time. The thing is, like, I'm not against all vaccinations. Like, for example, there are rules for vaccination children about certain, I think, measles and things like that. And I'm not sure I'm like against that, but at the same time, like with the corona thing, it is you have to the trade-off of like bodily autonomy versus corona versus the health of the potential health. And then like the question during corona was also like how much does the vaccination actually help in protecting others, right? This kind of thing. So I don't even know how I felt about it. I think like in retrospect, I'm not sure if that particular thing is necessary. And it really like it upset, of course, like people who are working very hard already and doing like a lot of the most difficult jobs, and didn't want to do that. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think I'm just going to be a coward and ignore this one. Okay. People should be allowed to change their gender in official documents without a psychological consultation, and I agree with this. I think they also did that. I'm not actually sure if they implemented it. It was a thing. I think so. I think they implemented it. I should pay more attention to the news, I guess. But either way, there was like a thing that the coalition that just broke apart was arguing for, and I do think it's a good thing for people, because people don't generally do this like for fun. They do it because they want to do it, right? Like, and it's like very important to them, and like kind of this artificial hurdle seem ridiculous to me. I don't think we really need it. Like, there's not an epidemic of like people being like, okay, today I'm a woman, tomorrow I'm a guy. And even if, I think that even that would probably not be the end of the world, right? Like, then you charge them like $20 or whatever, or $5, and then they have to constantly pay that or whatever to change their gender. And if they want to do that, they can do that. I mean, it's I don't know. It's just not a big deal, and like supporting people who are of trans identity is important, right? Like, I mean, they're also just people and they're not doing anything to anyone. Yes. Oh, I see. So to help against fighting particularly heinous or very heinous crimes, IP addresses should be safe for longer than 3 months. I'm against this. I think even the 3 months thing is a bit of an overreach, a state overreach. And like, you can say like, oh, well, they're just doing it for the particularly bad thing. But, you know, like, then, I don't know, you have like an opposing view on, I don't know, Gaza, right? Like, that's a very real example, like where people are suffering consequences because their speech is being limited, and suddenly, you know, your IP address is also being saved. Or I don't know, maybe you're a labor organizer, right? Like, I mean, these kind of things they're talking about it being against crimes, and usually they use like, you know, protecting children as the not scapegoat, but as the shield to bring them through. But then like, it's used against people you don't want it to be used against, and so I'm generally against this. Organizations or projects that deny the right of existence to the state of Israel should not get financial government assistance in Germany. So I talked about this before, right? Like, states do not have a right to exist. People have a right to exist, right? Like, it's a completely insane idea that we're like putting into the world. Like, what other state do you say this for, right? Like, and if Israel as the state stops to exist, but everyone who lives in the area of Israel is happy, healthy, and good, right? Like, this is a good thing, right? Like, it's not about the existence of Israel. That's the important part. So they're kind of trying to like tie this weird aspect together. And they're kind of saying like, you know, we're tying this together with anti-Semitism or whatever. And really this is being used, like I said in the last one, to silence a lot of people who are having very valid criticism about what Israel is doing. Like I said, I think I'm on record. It seems to me that this is a genocide that's being committed. And like, I'm not sure if it's going to actually be proven in the case, because I'm not 100%, like, I don't trust that there necessarily will be a fair outcome, since like one group is much more powerful and backed. But to me, it seems pretty obvious that like, at least there's an attempt of like a massive ethnic cleansing. And now with what Trump just recently said, I think it's almost undeniable, right? So I think this is basically used just to silence people who have these like acceptable criticism of something, and it's generally not used against like Nazis who are actually anti-Semitic and do like heinous crimes. So I'm very much against this. I think that they're doing it is very bad, and I think people who are critical of Israel's state that policy should be protected by free speech laws. So it goes way too far for me. Okay, we need 100 billion euros for the German army to strengthen our safety and security, our ability to protect ourselves. That's basically what it's saying, and they did that, right? Like after Russia invaded Ukraine and the war started, that's what Germany did, and that's also the reason why we're now over the 2% goal. Before it, like even before Russia invaded, I was always like, I was of the opinion that Germany and the EU generally should go for that 2% target. I've been thinking this for 10 years. I'm not like a lefty who's like completely against the army, but like it was funny to see like the mainstream opinion basically just like whoosh going past me, you know, and I was like, okay, now we need 5%, like insanity. So I'm not against this, right? Like I feel like our army should be equipped to handle what we need it strategically for, and like these 100 billion euros were one aspect of it. I think it should, yeah. And so I don't think it goes too far. I'm not against this. Okay, so then there was this question: Germany should deliver the weapon system Taurus, which is some type of missile system that people talk about. I'm not a military expert, but it was a very important talking point for many months in Germany. I guess it's similar to, no, I won't even say this, but like there's all these words for weapons like HIMARS, Storm Shadow, what is it, Javelin? No, what's the one that the UK does? It has like an interesting name, which like some throwing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a military expert, but so what people were saying is like this would make the difference if we delivered it, and Germany, the German chancellor particularly choose not to deliver it. So there was a massive argument. I don't know. I don't really know if this would have made much difference. As far as I can tell, like similar systems are much less effective now than they were initially. I think they had like an effectiveness of like 90% initially, but like now with countermeasures, I think the UK one is down to below 5% of usefulness. So I don't know if it would even make a difference. And then I'm also like, I'm not sure why the chancellor didn't want to do it. Like he usually wants to be pretty much in lockstep with the US in these kind of things and not go ahead. Which, I mean, it shows a bit of like he's worried about like what could be repercussions. So I was not really, I don't know. I don't really know, right? I would say like if I had to choose, I would go with no, that's probably not. But since I'm not an expert, I'll just skip this. Okay, the government should speak up for the individual right to asylum in the EU. Yes, this is like one particular. So in Germany, right? Like going back to my Israel shit, right? We have this thing about like learning something from the Holocaust, right? And if there's one thing that we should have learned from the Holocaust, it's not, well, okay, one, it's like, let's not have ethnic cleansing and genocide happening. But the second thing is not like that the existence of the state of Israel is sacrosanct. Did I say that right? It's like the most important thing in the world. It's that like people who are fleeing need the right to asylum and a safe harbor. That is like something that is important. It's like one of the great achievements of what we're talking about when we're talking about like, you know, the liberal world order or whatever. So this is very important to me, and that we're trying to undermine this now is very upsetting to me, and it's like one of the reasons why I don't really like any of the main parties who are running. And I'm very unhappy with the direction that like the German government is almost clearly going to go. But yeah, I agree with this. Uh, People who got like protection, asylum protection, should lose the status when they when they travel to their home. No, no. I mean, they shouldn't, right? Like, I mean, I was just thinking about what the logic behind it is, and I guess the idea that people would be saying is like, well, if they need protection, but they can go home, then do they really need protection? And it's kind of like they might still need protection. Maybe they have like a opportunity for this. Maybe they can like it's hard to say, right? Like people have very individual rights, but if it's not like proven that they don't need protection if they are able to do this once or twice or whatever. And if Germany thinks that they have the right to be protected, then we should continue to grant this. This is like a question I think right now with Syria, right? Like with Assad falling, now people are like, could we maybe go back, see what the situation is, and if not, if not, come back to Germany. And that would obviously be the best thing, right? Like, I mean, if you go there and you're like, oh shit, this is like really bad, I'm not going to be able to continue living there, and you have like a life in Germany, and Germany has seen you as someone who has a right to flee. I think that it makes sense to do that, like on a human level, but also like for Germany, this is not a bad thing to do this. So this is too far for me. Okay, so during Corona they had like this thing where they had a €9 ticket for all for German trains, like local transport, and you could go almost everywhere in Germany. Would just take a little bit of time, and the €9 was super popular. Was crazy popular. Had like a massive impact. Also, well, massive is I don't know, it's overstated, but like on our climate goals, people were using it, right? People were using it so much that was spun into the problem. It's like, oh, people are overusing it. It's too popular. No one goes there anymore, but then they put it into 49, and now it's like, I don't know, 56. I don't know. They're just going up and up, and now it's not really the function that it had before. So I think like if I were in charge, I would want to go back to the €9, and then you need to like extend the investment in public infrastructure to actually get it to work as well as possible. But generally, it's a great idea. It was like a great achievement. Yeah. BAföG, we talked about this in the last one, which is the support for students that don't have very many means. I think maybe there's a part that you pay back, maybe the part that you don't have to pay back. I'm not sure. I didn't have to. Luckily, I'm very lucky in that regard. I didn't have to take advantage of this. I think friends of mine had to, but I never really understood the specifics. But anyways, they're asking, should it be raised by 5% for the minimum, and €20 for living? And it's like, yeah, I think so. I think like they were actually particularly struggling during that time. And generally, if students have it easier, they can also study better. It's just better for us in the future. In a national state of emergency, okay, that's not quite what it's saying, but if there's an emergency, the debt break, which we have in Germany, to not spend more money, there's some specific rules that I won't go into here, should be possible to be suspended. And I would also say that 9, no, that is not enough. Like they need to actually completely cut that nonsense, because it's really, really hurting us. We need to invest so much more. So we need to like stop with the debt break completely. But it should at least be able to suspend it. So it's not enough for me. To face societal problems and well, defeat them. I'm not a translator. The most wealthy private persons and companies should have a one-time payment of, like, it's basically a wealth tax for one time, and I agree with this. That would also help with the inequality. We have like this real massive amount of wealth at the very top that just gets bigger and bigger every year, right? Like it's almost impossible to go against it, and like something like taking some money from that, and it probably would include me in my wealth bracket. It's fair, it makes sense, and so I agree with that. Okay, so the other one talked about this as well. So this is about in the supply chain, there is an EU right and a German right to German law to protect the people in this supply chain and make sure that it's all like humanely done to some degree, right? Like not even to like a full degree. But all of the especially like some of the German right-wing parties and the libertarians wanted to stop this, and they did kind of actually like undermine it on the EU level and on the German level. But I think this is actually a good thing. I think we should have good supply lines. I got a little bit of the whole coughing going on. Okay, to help with climate change, to help fight climate change, every newly installed heater in newly built buildings should have at least 65% renewable energies. Oh, I think we got a little earthquake, but it seems okay. We're all right. We can continue. And yeah, I kind of agree with this. I think this became like a massive argument in Germany, and the specifics are not clear on this, but generally, like if we have renewable energy, it seems to be like the ticket into the future for Europe and Germany to continue doing well. So I agree with that. Okay, and then with the subsidies for diesel for the this is such a specific point. With diesel for farmers is cheaper through some means than usual, and they want to continue this. And like this became a massive argument. Like the farmers with the tractors would protest, which was like an interesting juxtaposition, because like the people who were before then like completely against people gluing themselves to protest against climate change were now like cheering on the farmers and like, yeah, they're so right. And I'm like, I don't know. There was just a bit of a hypocrisy. It seemed I don't really have an opinion. I don't really know if this is like a massive important aspect of anything. So I really don't know. I mean, in general, I think probably good to get away from it, but like I think in the agriculture it's kind of difficult at the moment. So I'll just forget about that one and see where we're going, because I think we should be done. Okay, now I have to also say which ones are particularly important to me. I didn't do that last time, and my friend was annoyed with that. So my friend and parasocial relationship have been. So which ones are important to me? So this is important to me. I don't want the people who have government assistance to struggle with it being taken from them. Immigration, I don't want immigration hurdles. Minimum wage is important to me. protection of people who are thinking about having an abortion are important to me. Weed. It used to be way more important to me. I thought it was like a really massive issue. But lately, I mean, weed is not as important to me, but I still agree with it. I don't know. I'm sorry, like to my friends, but this is not the most important issue to me. I want it to be kept, though, definitely. The trans question. So here's the thing, right? Like this, I also would say probably is not the most important question to me, but with like the massive assault on trans people, especially like through the US and like the far right, and like really using them as a scapegoat and also as like a wedge issue to try to attack, well, the broader left and also like the LGBT community and like kind of a divide and conquer kind of approach. I think this is actually somewhat important to me. I'll just say like more important than usual. Like I'm already on the right side of history, of course, but like it's more important to me than some others. Should IP addresses not be saved? Yeah, I mean, it's also important to me. In the end, I'm just going to be like only weed is not going to be important to me, huh? Let's see. This is about the subsidies for organizations that might be against the existence of Israel. So the question is like, if this, like the way they are implying this is like, I don't think like there should be government assistance who are like to groups who say like death to Israel or like worse than that, right? Like, of course, but that's not how it's used. It's like used as a completely opposite of this. So like the wording of the question makes it seem much more palatable. Still, I wouldn't agree with it for free speech reasons, but with how it's actually used, I'm massively opposed to this. The 100 billion for the army, I'm for this, but it's not the most important thing to me because I actually don't think we're as in danger. Like the Ukraine war is terrible, right? And I do think we should do what we need for our protection. And so I want that to be done. But like we're not, like I don't think Russia is going to attack the EU or definitely not Germany in like the near future. If I'm wrong, luckily I live in Japan, so but I think it's unlikely. The protection of asylum, very important to me. I just said this is like one of the main lessons from the Holocaust, very important. Migration. People who go back to their home countries should lose their status of being protected. I'm very much against this too, but like I mean, it's a small issue. No, it's not a small. I mean, obviously for the people, it's a really massive issue. But I'm like, how many people are there actually that fall under this? Is this like I don't know. I'm not going to mark it as 2x. Mobility, the €9 ticket. I really would like the €9 ticket. I think this is actually like it would be a great sign of like some sort of social cohesion. So I really want the €9 ticket for transportation. BAföG should be raised. I mean, it should. Like, oh my god, I'm going to 2x everything. The debt brake is terrible, so I'm just going to. I'd be like, my friend Bene, parasocial Bene, as we call him. He said I should weigh everything, but it sounds like ultimately I'm just going to be like, no, this is important. No, this is important. No, this is important. Like, I think I'm not a single issue voter. I'm a lot of issue voter. Although I'm actually in this election, I am a single issue voter. I'm not voting for anyone who's in any way in favor or has participated in the ethnic cleansing and the war and the murdering in Gaza. I'm completely against that. So, but that's not a question. There's not even a question on this. The richest should give like a wealth tax for one time. Yes, that would really help the inequality. Hopefully, it depends on the size. It might not really make much of a dent, but it could be sensible. The protection of the supply lines. That's also an important one. They're all important. Like all of these are important. But okay, I think like slightly less important than the other ones that I'm thinking. I don't know. I mean, the question is like I think like if the people in the supply line actually were protected, that would be good. No, I think it's actually really important. It's like a global south issue. That's like it's easy for me to say like it's not important because I'm far away. I don't know. This is going to be a real interesting result. Energy. Oh, okay. So this one I don't really know that much about, and I don't care as much about. So I will not 2x it. So just to remember, I not 2x'd four of them. All right, let's go. Let's see what we have. Okay, so pretty similar to the last one, just with this time parties that have like, well, the BSW is the Bündnis Sarah Wagner. That's like the split off from the left party, and they're not in the parliament right now. So, but they have a good chance of being in. So I guess they entered the. Well, okay, I guess technically they are in the parliament because they are split from this. So I guess for part of it, forget what I said. It's irrelevant. But yeah, and this is not surprising to me. I'm mostly like a labor focused left person, I would say, at heart. I'm like I say I'm a social democrat, but like the SPD is not a social democratic party anymore. So yeah, the left 80, social democratic party still 50. At FDP, I don't know why. I guess like that's my liberal, like I love the freedom. I love the freedom overlap. The Green Party also similar. Okay. Not much overlap with AFD, not much with CDU. That's interesting. Should we look more into this? Might be interesting for me, but can't even get the Begründungen. Okay. Oh, now they have reasons for each question. So I think this is like irrelevant for everyone else. I'm just going to quit it here. Quit it while I'm behind. And that was kind of fun. I hope you enjoyed it too. Tell me if you have like different views or the same views if you did this. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay spoopy, friends.